Hi everyone, this is Mrs. Estes again. I just want to talk to you about your child's homework for Thursday that we'll be doing Friday. It's called Working with Fractions. On here we're really kind of wrapping it all up. We're looking at least common multiples, adding and subtracting fractions with uncommon denominators, finding the greatest common factor of two numbers, simplifying a fraction, adding and subtracting with a little bit larger denominators, and then also a couple agree or disagree problems, looking at someone's work and saying, I agree, they did the right thing, or I disagree, they made an error, and here's what it was. So, if we look up here, there is a great example. This first half of here just gives you a really good example of finding the least common multiples, and then making equivalent fractions as well. And then for each section, there's an example, so the kids can always reference that back. So for one, they're just finding the least common multiple of two numbers. This is just like what they did on their homework on Tuesday. We worked on this in class, so they should know what to do. Two, they're adding or subtracting. They need to find the common denominators and rewrite them. I would suggest them using a 4 square and do 4/5 plus 5/6. Go through the steps like they know how to do, which is always in their math notebook as well. And then I also have a video on the 4 square on my YouTube channel too if you need to do that. The new thing that they're going to be doing is finding the greatest common factor. So we really stress with the kids there's a difference between multiples and factors. So multiples would be like 2, 4, 6, 8. So taking a number and multiplying it by 1, by 2, by 3, by 4. And factors are all the numbers that can be multiplied by another number to equal this here. So if they're doing 16, they could list out the factors. Sometimes it's called a factor rainbow to help them remember all of them. So I'd have 1 and 16. 1 times 16 is 16. This is how they make the rainbow. 2 times 8. 3 times nothing gives you 16. 4 times 4. 5 times nothing. 6 times nothing. 7 times nothing. And then 8 again. So that's how you know you're done there. And then they could list the factors of 28. So they'd have 1 and 28. 2 and 14. They would have not 3, but they would have 4 times 7, not 5, and not 6. And so that's how they would know. And then if they're finding the greatest common factor, so the largest factor they share, in this case, would be 4. We can also do this using the ladder method, and I'll show you that as well. So I could put 16 and 28 in a step. The ladder method, I tell the kids, is a lot like Target. You have to know what you're doing, otherwise you're going to get lost and be in a totally wrong area. So I say a lot of times when I go to Target, I only need groceries. And if I stick to my plan and just get groceries, then I get out great and I just got what I needed. But if I start to kind of veer away and go to the clothes section, I get myself in trouble. So we tell them you can do a lot of things with the ladder method, so you have to make sure you know what you're doing. So 16 and 28, I'm just going to try to find the greatest common factor. So I could pull out a 2 because they're both even. 16 divided by 2 is 8. 28 divided by 2 is 14. I can add another step because these share a common factor. So I can take out another 2, they're both even. 2 divided by 8 is, 8 divided by 2 is 4. 14 divided by 2 is 7. And 4 and 7 do not share any common factors. So if I'm looking for just the greatest common factor, that's just the numbers on the side. So not the big L, that's for the least common denominator, just the numbers on the side. And we always multiply together. 2 times 2 is 4. So the greatest common factor is 4. So there's 2 ways to do that. Either one is fine with us. Then, as we go to the back, they're finding the simplest form And we know that to find the simplest form, we divide by the greatest common factor. So, for example, we just did this, 16 and 28, that was 4. So if I have 16 28ths, I'm going to simplify it, which is going to be an equivalent fraction. So what I do to the bottom, divide by 4, I have to do to the top. 16 divided by 4 is 4. 28 divided by 4 is 7. So 4/7 is my simplified fraction. Also, they can use the ladder method again for this. It's another trick. They've got to know what they're doing, though. Or they've got to make sure they know why they're doing the ladder method. So this time you have to make sure your numerators come first and your denominators come second. I could take out a 2. 16 divided by 2 is 8. 28 divided by 2 is 14. I can take another step on my ladder. I can take a 2 out. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 14 divided by 2 is 7. And my simplified fraction, 4 and 7 share no common factors, is down here, 4/7. So it's just kind of a neat little tool that they could use, but they can always divide by the greatest common factor. So when we're doing this, we are dividing by the greatest common factor. We're pulling out factors. So I've pulled out 4 total to get me this here. It's just another way of looking at it, because we know there's so many ways to do math, and some strategies work for some students and other strategies work for other students. So we like to give them kind of a toolbox and they can choose what works the best for them. On question 5, they're adding and subtracting. They could use 4 squares. It may help to simplify the fractions first if they want, or they can go through and they can do a 4 square, but there's definitely larger denominators than what they're typically used to here. And then question 7, they're saying whether they agree or disagree with this statement and explaining, or sorry, 6, they're agreeing or disagreeing with this statement and explaining why, and then same for 7. Do you agree with this statement? Why? And then 8 is going to be the bonus. Thank you. I hope this helps.